Hang on just a second. Thank you. Love you. Bye. Well, good morning, everybody. Today is something new. I'm doing a new kind of video today. I'm going to do a monthly reset. So Lydia Sin from Frugal Debt Free Life kind of inspired this. I've seen several people do it, but she's the one that I've seen do it most recently. So I will link her down below. Lydia is such an inspiration and a wealth of knowledge in the financial realm. All right, so anyway, what I was saying is I'm going to try doing a monthly reset video where I take you along with me, reset the house, some of the things in my planner, and just kind of talk to you, about the month. So we have just dropped my son off at school and we made a couple of special stops. I got my daughter a donut and I wanted chicken minis, so I stopped and got myself that. We have a huge Aldi grocery trip to take today, so I will tell you about that after the fact, but we're going to go in and get our groceries, probably about $200 worth, and go home and put them away, and then I'll kind of tell you about our groceries. I'm going to talk to you about some budget stuff, and then we'll do some planning also. So usually I make this big Aldi trip every 2 weeks, and something you'll hear me talk about a little bit later is why I skipped this month and how I made it through the rest of January without grocery shopping. So I will be talking more about that in an entire separate video, but whenever I make this haul, I really like to take my time to put things away where I will see them and use them. We do have an extra fridge and freezer in our garage, so we are blessed to have that extra space. Now, before I left, I set out all of these extra ingredients. Over Christmas, I made some Chex Mix. So I am just using up all these extra ingredients to make another batch. I think one really useful tool in meal planning is looking through your fridge and freezer and pantry and seeing what little things do you have half bags of, and how can you use those in a way that's going to utilize that product and contribute to something bigger, something greater. So I knew I had all of these little things that otherwise would probably just get overlooked or thrown out. So I really wanted to create something that I could use to pack lunches and that would be a snack throughout the next week or two. I like Chex Mix because you can just put it in the oven and slow cook it. Okay, Wild Kratts is on in the background, so if you hear that, sorry. I found 2 deals today at Aldi with the red sticker. So anytime I go to Aldi, I try to find things that are marked down. I did ask the girl at the register if there's a certain day of the week that they do that, because that can be a good tip, but she said they just do it every morning. And the only reason they do it is because things are approaching their best buy date. So let me show you what I got. Naan was on my list anyway. I know that I could make my own, and probably at some point I will. Yes, that's going out today. That is part of the February reset. I cannot believe that thing is still up. I just took off the ornaments and lights last night. I really scratched up my hands. Yeah, I would not recommend leaving your real tree up until February. Or almost February. Anyway, it's going out today. So Naan was already on our list, but I was going to get the full-sized ones, but then I saw that these mini ones were $1 off, and then after doing the math, these are in fact a better deal, so these are the ones that I got. So the most exciting part was the chicken. I usually buy the Aldi brand, like big packs of chicken, which I know is probably not the best quality, but that a lot of times just ends up being what I buy. But they had these Purdue packs, and they actually each have a $5 off sticker on them. So once I did the math and compared, these were $1.99 a pound compared to the Aldi, which was $2 something. Anyway, I think it was close to $3 a pound. So these wound up being a better deal, so I got 2 of them. So I'm going to chop them up right now and put them in the freezer for a later time. Yeah, so I was very happy to find that deal. So if you remember my Christmas crafts video, when I was packing up my Christmas ornaments, I knew that I wanted to use these on the wall. So I removed the ribbons and I was able to place them here, and I really love the way that they look. It brightens my day every time I walk past them. Okay, well, it is actually the next day. I didn't have time to sit down and film this planning part because yesterday evening was pretty busy. But I wanted to sit down and just kind of talk to you about some budgeting things, things that I'm reading right now, and then just talk about some calendar things for the rest of the month. So I think I mentioned to you whenever I was unloading and putting away the groceries, I wiped everything down. I had already gone through and kind of thrown away anything that we were not using or had kind of reached its prime. I skipped that last grocery trip. I think I mentioned that. I skipped my grocery trip to Aldi and really kind of made it a challenge to finish out January not going to the grocery store. I think this is probably something that I'm going to keep as a rhythm, maybe to do once a quarter or something like that. I don't know exactly how that's going to look, but to just skip your big grocery trip every now and then, especially if you notice that you have things piling up in the back of the freezer that you're not getting to, just skip a grocery trip and just eat whatever you have. So yeah, I think that I'm going to start doing that maybe once a quarter. So I went through, I wiped down the fridge, I threw out some onions that were going bad, and then I got everything put away. So as far as the budget, I did a video in January of last year, and I talked about our first month officially budgeting and how that went. And then it was a really good experience, and then we just didn't really stick with it. And that's not to say that we lived lavishly or beyond our means, but we just were not tracking our spending in each specific category. And I really wanted to get back to that. So I have started back to that. January was really my first month of like kickstarting, getting back to budgeting. And I think it's just so important, even if you are a naturally frugal person, and both of us are, if you don't say, this month we are spending this amount on groceries, this amount on eating out, this amount on fun activities, if you don't set that intention, then you have nothing to shoot for, no parameter to stop you, and then also you don't really know what you're spending because you're not tracking it. So anyway, it doesn't have to be important to everybody, and it might not work for everybody, but I think that it's a good thing for us. So that being said, I usually take those 2 big Aldi trips per month, and I usually try to make each of them about $200 because they last for 2 weeks. And then my husband will do a couple of supplemental things at other local stores for things that we can't buy at Aldi. Certain like soft drink that he likes to drink, dog food, things like that. So I just set our budget at $5.50 for groceries for the month, and we're a family of 4, and I thought we'll just see how that goes. So actually, because of skipping the grocery haul, and I've got a video coming talking more about that. I won't get into the specifics of that, but because of skipping that, we actually came in $125.06 under budget. So we spent less than we had budgeted for groceries, which was encouraging. And actually we even spent less than that because about 120 or 160, I can't remember, of that was spent on freezer meals. I made like 12 different freezer meals with a friend at her house, and we haven't used any of those yet. So I don't even really count that towards the January budget. I mean, yes, we did spend it. So I'm officially counting it, but that wasn't food that we've actually consumed yet. So that's encouraging to me that I've got 12 meals in the freezer that I can pull from at any time. And then on the flip side of that, we try to be pretty conservative with our eating out, and we still like to do it. It's still a nice treat. But I had budgeted $150 for the month, which, you know, if you're familiar with eating out, that's not a lot. We went over, but not too bad. We spent $166.56 this month on eating out. So it's possible that as we're doing this, I might see that my grocery budget is a little too high and I could transfer some of that to eating out. We'll see how it goes. Yesterday I spent a little more. I think I spent like $252 yesterday, but we were out of quite a few things, and because of those freezer meals, I think that I will be able to make my next trip much smaller. So I think the budgeting thing is interesting just because so many of us here on YouTube live in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and I think it can be interesting to see, you know, what people are paying and what people are spending. I know that the restaurants category for us is pretty conservative. I feel like, you know, if you divide 150 up over 4 weeks, that doesn't give you a lot of room to play with. It pretty much allows us to eat out like one time and be pretty conservative with that. And I will say that also includes treats or coffee shop or anything like that. So anytime, like this morning, I took Andy to get a donut and I got chicken minis. So those went in that category. But also I met a friend for coffee last week. That went in that category. So we do add those to that eating out category. You saw another thing that I did yesterday was just trying to clean up partial things in the pantry. So I was able to make that Chex Mix, and we still have just a little bit of the materials left, but I just put it all in that one Pub Mix tub. So we can kind of pull from that. But I was able to make a whole batch of Chex Mix. And then that chicken that I bought that was $5 off for each pack, I did go ahead and slice that up and put it in individual bags. So I have 3 portioned bags of chicken in the freezer now that I can pull from through the month. I think that is one of those things, like when I bring groceries home, it's like grocery shopping is only part of it. First you have to figure out what you're going to buy, but then you have the grocery shopping, but then you have actually putting things away. So much of it and so much of what makes the groceries last longer is not just putting them in the fridge. You know, you see people like preserving their berries, soaking them in a water vinegar mixture, and then going ahead and figuring out, am I going to use this protein this week, and if not, slicing it up and freezing it. And it's those things that, like, I really did not want to do that chicken yesterday. I wanted to just put it in the fridge and go watch a show with Andy like she was asking me to, but I told her, I said, let me just do this chicken first, and now it's done. And so it's not that this shopping task has had to multiply out through the week in other areas. So I'm glad that I did it. Okay, so that's grocery shopping, that's budgeting. Okay, so a couple of calendar things. I am still really using and loving and enjoying my Simplified planner. If you don't have a planner yet, I will link my review of it down below. I did a full review of it, and then I also did a few ways that I was like kickstarting the new year, and one of them was using this planner. So I'll link both of those videos down below. I'm not sponsored, or I bought this with my own money, but it's just, I think it's a good tool. And then looking at that, I mentioned that each month has like these simplicity tips. And so February's simplicity tip says, write down your morning routine and tape it to your bathroom mirror. Get it out of your head and onto paper. And a morning routine is something that I've kind of been gradually working on through my adult life. And it's getting better, but it's still something that I'm not great at. So I do think that that's going to be something that I do in February. The January tip, what was the January tip? I did the January one as well. It said take some time to evaluate last year. What small change could you make to your daily routine to make this your best year yet? And I talked about like how I thrive with loose structure, and I talked about kind of just being kind to myself and knowing that that's how I work best. But yeah, the February one, I think that I'm definitely going to do that. As far as the calendar, I'm going through and looking at, are there any birthdays of close friends or family? You know, would I like to get them a little card or ask them if they want to come over for lunch or go out to lunch or something like that? I'm trying to work in eating at home and cooking into normal things. You know, I feel like, and you know, it's a different time commitment, of course. Trying to make it more comfortable and more commonplace to just say, hey, do you want to come over for dinner? Do you want to come over for lunch? And if you think about it, you know, if you're inviting another family over and just saying, you know, can you bring this? That may actually bless them in a way that you didn't think about, because maybe they also have a small eating out budget. We were able to go to a friend's house this week, and I just really thought about, you know, when you're friends with somebody, just letting them see your true self and what's important to you. And it should be like totally easy to just invite somebody over, and when I say easy, it shouldn't feel like maybe they would rather go out to eat. Maybe they would, but they'd probably also really like coming to your house. And I've learned, and you can probably attest to this if you have kids, sometimes the eating out is harder. You know, if you go over to somebody's house or you invite someone over, when the kids are finished eating, they can go and play, and at a restaurant there's not really a place for them to do that. So thinking about friends that have birthdays, family that have birthdays coming up, seeing if maybe I can invite them over if there's something they'd like to do. Another thing with budgeting that I would really love to know what different people do if you do keep a set budget every month. The things that maybe they're one large expense through the year or two large expenses, but they're not a monthly thing. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I feel like maybe the best way is just like to have a miscellaneous category that you just put $200 in your account every month, and then when you need it, you just pull from it. I don't know if that's like the right way to think about it, but for example, like getting your car, you know, oil changed, your Amazon Prime subscription if you have one of those, you know, things that come out like once or twice a year, but they're not a monthly expense, but you also don't want to get to that expense and then you don't have the money for it. So I don't know, I'm kind of thinking the miscellaneous category might be the way to go, but I'm not sure about that. There are a couple projects that I'm going to work on this month, and you'll see those. One is just styling nightstands. I saw this picture in a magazine. It's actually, Brandon got me a magazine for Christmas that I had asked for, and in it, it had a nightstand and it had all of these books styled underneath. And I just really liked the way that it looked. I liked that it gives you book storage, but it also just had this cozy feel to it. And I feel like winter is probably an appropriate time to try that out. So I'm going to do that. And then another thing I'm going to do is work on our laundry room. So you guys will be seeing a video of that in the next few weeks. Another thing as we look into February is trying to go ahead and get our taxes turned in. And then if we do get a return, figuring out how would be the best way to use those funds. The last thing I wanted to share is what I am reading. If you watched the vlog where I talked about reading Wuthering Heights, I have decided that just for the time being, it's just, I'm not going to do that. I may revisit it at some point. I'm not giving up on it, but I'm just saying, see you later. Can't focus on that right now. I am, however, right now reading through Parenting by Paul David Tripp. We've read this at church before, but it was a time when I couldn't always come to the gatherings and I didn't keep up with all of the reading. So I have read some of it, but I'm really trying to read it as a whole. So I'm going through, I'm sitting down with a pencil with a highlighter and, you know, highlighting things that really speak to me. So yeah, I have just really been enjoying reading through that. Also at church, in our Sunday night group, we are going through reading James. So I've been enjoying that. And then on Wednesdays, we've been reading through Ephesians. So those are kind of like the Bible related type things that I'm reading. I am looking for a new fiction book, and a few people on Instagram, I've like screenshotted things from their stories that they have recommended. So I'm probably going to be looking this week or next week at the library for one of those. Okay, so that is kind of my reset for February. Just kind of budgeting and looking at grocery things and restaurant things, and then just looking through the month at kind of things I have coming up. So you guys will have to let me know. I've never really done like a monthly reset before. If you liked this kind of video, just let me know in the comments, and this might be something that I do more often. But I hope that you guys have a great February. I hope you know that you are loved and appreciated, and I just hope that you have a great one, and I will talk to you soon.